Hey everyone, welcome to Let's Talk About Brand. Where is that? Boop. I, of course, am Christine Gritmon. I do this show every single Friday, right now, 12 noon Eastern Time, on Facebook and Twitter, talking to expert guests about different elements of branding, because there's a lot to dig into there. Please let me know in the comments if you are joining us on Facebook or on Twitter, as well as if you're here live or if you are joining the replay. So this week is very exciting. This week I have someone who I've actually wanted to have on since the beginning of the show. He was on my initial brainstorming list when I was coming up with this show. Josh Elledge. I saw Josh speak at Social Media Marketing World a few times, actually. He was talking about how to up your influence, which is also the name of his company, one of his companies. He initially became known as the Savings Angel, and he got a ton of press, and he really knew how to leverage those opportunities. And so he decided to help other people do the same. And we're going to be talking about using PR both to define your brand and vice versa, using your brand to kind of hone in on the PR opportunities that you want to get. But either way, you know, being seen, being heard, it is all definitely aided by having other people amplify your message. So without any further ado, I am going to bring Josh on with us. Hey, Josh.
Christine, this is awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Yay!
So what I love about this is, Christine, you are so on brand with, in terms of like how you produce everything. Yep, this is all part of this. We could really dig into the psychology of like, I'm just watching everything you do. I'm like, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, you got it.
I love that. I always love it when someone who I admire says that I'm on it. That is very nice validation. So why don't you tell the folks at home kind of how you became an expert on this, on how to kind of leverage PR to up your visibility and up your influence. Tell them just like a little bit of your story before we get to the advice part.
Well, it was really out of necessity. So I was in the United States Navy for 5 years as a Navy journalist, and that did give me some experience. Like I wasn't very good necessarily, but at least I was comfortable in being able to communicate in front of audiences. I went on and did some stuff in radio for a little while. I actually I thought it'd be great fun to start a small town newspaper for a while. And again, got more experience as a journalist.
Wow,
and
when was that?
What's that?
When was that? When did you start a newspaper?
Way too late in the game. When it talks about, when we think about, when should you start a newspaper? I think the 50s was the best time to start a newspaper. I launched mine, I want to say in 1999, and it was part of a blog.
Background. So many people came to social media and marketing through journalism because it's communications.
Yeah, totally. And listen, like when we talk about PR, a lot of times we think, well, we're just talking about traditional media. Listen, PR is everywhere that there are audiences, and you're always going to have those curators of that content to those audiences. So whether you're working with a YouTuber, you're working with, you're doing a collaboration with another Instagrammer, like this is all PR. So it's, and they have different purposes, right? So you might get quoted in Inc. magazine, and you'll find that you actually have very few eyeballs as a result of that, right? As opposed to, let's say you work with a social media influencer and you're going to get like 1 million eyeballs, right? So one of them, like you get quoted in Inc. magazine, that's high authority, but low visibility. Technically, I mean, really. And then the other one is high visibility, but low authority. Like you're not going to put a logo on your site that says, I was, quoted on, at Mary Jane Love or something like that. I don't know if that's a real person, but, so there's different plays depending on what it is that you need, that I would recommend that you spend your time doing, because authority is it's like having really good inner core strength, right? You have great cardiovascular health. You have underlying strong foundation. That authority is going to improve nearly every metric in business But by itself, if I go on TV and I do a TV segment, I'm probably not going to make a bunch of sales. I'm probably not. But I'm going to use that video segment so that my own audience on social media or my email list or something like that sees me in that light. And that's where I'm going to get my sales from. And so sometimes, folks kind of come in the front door and they're like, listen, if you could just get me on TV or blah, 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 all my wildest dreams will come true. Maybe, maybe not. So we want to have very realistic expectations about what PR is good for, what media visibility is good for, and what it's really not.
Yeah, because you still have to do the work, right? You have to do the work to be interesting enough to be a story and to bring enough value that people want you in their outlet. But at the same time, you have to know to leverage that. Because the thing is, I talked about this experience in my chat on Tuesday. I had some incredible media exposure before I was ready to parlay it into anything. And now I'm like, oh God, now I got to get something like that again, now that I know what the heck to do with it a little bit better.
Yeah, and that's great experience. And so your worst case scenario is it helps you formulate your story. So let's say, for example, you want to be a guest on a bunch of podcasts. You could do that. And I'd say one of the greatest values you get would be a relationship with the host who is somewhat of an influencer, right? Even if they're just a baby micro influencer and they have a small audience, that's valuable. Secondly, you are working out your talking points. You're practicing it. And really, you see this with a lot of podcasters, it's the exercise of doing it that makes you good. If you want to feel really good about yourself, go listen to my first handful of episodes of the Savings Angel show, that podcast. Because even though I had done all this media and all this TV, if you go back and listen to my first episodes of the Savings Angel show, you're going to feel really good about yourself. Because it's embarrassingly bad. My first TV segments were horrible. I go back and they're still on YouTube for my first Savings Angel TV segments here on Fox 35 here in Orlando. And I'm stiff and uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to watch.
And yet you got more
just to give yourself hope. Yes, listen, you get better the more you do it. And really it's the best way to get good is to keep on doing it. So if you've toyed with the idea, someone's watching this, toyed with the idea of starting a podcast or a YouTube channel, your first YouTube videos, your first podcasts, they're not going to be real good. But you got to get it down. You got to get them out of the way. And as you do it more and more and more, you'll start to discover your voice. Yeah. It's I took improv classes for a year. And at the very beginning, I was really bad. I'm just awful. And by the end of the year, I was slightly less bad. And that's part of just what it takes. And it's so worth it. It is so worth it to keep showing up on stage, keep on showing up for audiences, keep on serving. Lead with a teacher's heart. Don't lead with, a PT Barnum kind of, I'm going to sell this people. I'm going to make a ton of money, blah, blah, blah. And Christine, by the way, what I'm just sharing right there, mm-hmm. I have to source where that came from. And it was when I was in journalism school in the military. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Good Morning Vietnam with Robin Williams. So that character is Adrian Cronauer is a real guy. And I actually heard him speak before he passed. And he talked about, when you take a microphone, when you're on stage, when you're in front of the camera, you have a sacred obligation to serve that audience. When it comes to the chain of command, he said, listen, I would argue that there is no higher person on that chain of command than that audience member. And that's incidentally, what gained him a lot of respect ultimately, but in the short term got him in a lot of trouble because he didn't toe the company line in the case, in Vietnam, he was being told to say a bunch of stuff that just wasn't true. And he basically told him to go jump in a lake and he was honest. And as a result of that honesty, again, the honesty is always the best. Authenticity is always the best path because audiences are far more sophisticated than most marketers believe that they are. And most gurus will tell you that they are. The audiences are far more savvy than marketers.
Absolutely.
Really,
Now more than
yeah.
ever. To quote my friend Tim, who's in the audience, Tim Stone loves saying now more than ever. So now more than
Yeah.
ever. All right, so I have some questions actually from our Tuesday Chat About Brand Twitter chat, and I would love
All
for
right.
any live viewers to bring any questions they've got here. So I actually don't have these in any particular order. I was a little unprepared, but that's okay. So first, Esther wants to know, how have things changed since you started, and how are things changing now? Because when you really started in all of this, it was pre-social media. The channels
Yeah.
were completely different. So we'd love to hear how things changed from then to now, and also how you see things changing going forward.
Yeah, so this is the whole idea with PR, right? Is you want to go where your audiences are pre-congregated, because creating it out of scratch is like, I don't know, what do you just like finding people on the street and talk, hey, you want to join my audience? No. Someone's already done the work, right? So in the case, like when I started Savings Angel back in 2007, January 2007. Yeah, you're right. This was the baby infancy. There was MySpace, but Facebook, I think, was still like not really on the radar. I think it was still at Harvard only at that time. So again, I had no money for advertising. So, the next best thing I could do is just go to local radio stations, local TV stations, local newspapers, ad magazines, whoever I could, and say, listen, I would love to advertise, but I don't have budget for it. Can I produce content? Here's the value of the content I'm going to do. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and start producing it. And if you can run it, awesome. If you have remnant space, awesome. You don't have to pay me. In fact, if somebody signs up with this link, maybe we could even do a rev share on that. That's how I got started. Now, today, there are an infinite number of platforms. So it's never been easier to serve audiences. But what you have to do is you have to keep showing up time after time after time. And you just have to budget it as, I'm talking, business leader to business leader. You just have to make that a part of your weekly activity, is that I'm going to go out and I'm going to serve audiences every single week. Even if those audiences are really small, make it part of your business plan to find a way to capture that and then repurpose that to your own audience. Now, after you keep doing this over and over and over again, you will have an audience. It's just the way that it works.
And you're showing up with value, and you're showing them why you're worth listening to. You're showing them why you're worth listening to and why you're worth giving a bigger stage to. Love it.
Yeah, for sure. And there's absolutely, when we start to get into like media training, which, I could spend an hour with someone getting them ready for a 2.5-minute TV segment. There's that level of detail that you can really work toward mastery about what are you going to say, what value are you going to get, how are you going to connect with that audience in an authentic way? Because a lot of times, we get that performance anxiety and it just like we all feel it. We audiences know exactly what's going on, so you may as well just leave all the cards on the table, lay them all out on the table, and say, "This is who I am." If you're uncomfortable, say, "I am so nervous right now, but you know what? I love sharing this so much. I'm going to do it anyway." Acknowledge everything.
This is why I love live video. Things happen, and when I just keep rolling with them, the way you keep rolling with things when they don't go perfectly actually tells more than when things are perfect and prepared, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I got a couple more questions. Let's see. The Sundar wants to know, how does the press/media company maintain the balance between delivering something actually newsworthy versus risking losing audience trust, especially when time is of the essence? So I think it's really about the decision-making process of the media companies. If you could shed some insight into that, because of course, if we can work with what they need, that benefits us.
And let me answer it this way, because I think that this is going to be pretty valuable for those who want to get their brand in the media, in the press. I've done this over 2,000 times, so I've learned what press and what media like and what they don't care for. Like, first off, it's not their job to promote you. That is, there's nowhere is it in their job description to promote your product or service. So forget it. Like, just take that, leave that on a shelf. Now, you will get value from that. But if in your pitch, in any way, if it feels self-promotional, they're going to start getting a queasy feeling in their tummy when they look at your pitch, and they're not going to want to have anything to do with it. It's equivalent
a very tricky balance, because you do want to promote yourself at the right level so you can leverage the opportunity. But if you're leading with that instead of leading with what you're giving, tell us a little bit about that balance.
Yeah, it's wildly inappropriate to be pitchy and salesy in your press release or your pitch or whatever to the media. They're not going to touch it, right? So it's far better to say, how can I help you? If you truly understand who their audience is, what the needs of their audience is, and you work with the mindset of delivering the most amount of value first. And oh, by the way, the incidental value is going to be, people are going to want to come find you. Listen, in today's internet environment, it's not hard to find about anybody. Like, you can find anyone you want. So if I go on TV and I've got my name here, right down on the bottom right, it's not that hard to find me. A quick Google search and you'll find more information about me than, You'll find anything you want to find out about me, thanks to Google and social media. And so just understand, first off, audiences are smart. If they like you, they'll come find you. Now, that said, you should be willing and able to tell stories so people understand just what you do have to offer. So obviously, as I'm telling stories, people start building a narrative in their mind about, can Josh do something for me? And I've got a lot of free stuff that I can do for you, and a lot of ways I can provide value. And, first off, just simply by going to my website. And again, that's part of that. Now, again, if you're leading with respecting the audience, and also you are working in partnership with that journalist and finding out, what do they need? Well, they want a great story. They want great headlines. They want something that's going to keep viewers engaged, right? And if you can create that with them, then now you're co-creating together with the primary goal of bringing value to the audience. And again, just trust the audience that they'll come find you if you have enough value to give.
I love it. I don't know why this is making it choppy and behind. I feel like Mercury retrograde has hit my studio extra hard. But anyway, I'm going to move on to another question from the chat. Jillian wants to know, and Jillian is in PR. So when you first started getting started, what lesson or experience from that time has stuck with you the most?
Well, I'd say in terms of my first radio experience, because that was the very first thing that I did. There was a local radio station that took mercy on me, and that was the very first PR opportunity that I had. And it really was that if you are genuine, you wear your heart on your sleeve, and you have a segment that truly is valuable, you can absolutely do incredible business. But again, it's not a one and done, right? So, so that's really critical. So that's the first thing, is that there is absolute value, but again, you have to keep showing up over and over and over again, because, out of that first TV segment that I did, I ended up making, $300, $400, $500 in new sales from that for my company, Savings Angel. But then I went back the next week and I made few hundred more dollars, and you just keep stacking that up. And so, what we really want to think about is the goal is ultimately that I want to have 400 appearances. And so if I get 400 appearances and I kind of work the math backwards, well, you could start to really calculate your return on investment from that time. But Christine, something you and I talked about as well is that it is not enough to just say, I'm going to get the visibility, and that's where I'm going to get your value. And again, we talked about this already, but I cannot underline and overstate this, is when you do your appearance, whether you're a podcast guest or whatever it is, once you do the thing, you're only halfway done. So for example, Christine, even something like this, you have an amazing audience, right? But I know that when this starts getting published, my work is halfway done. Now, me sharing this with all of my audience it creates a great win-win, but that's where I'm going to completely amplify the ROI of my time spent in service. And when I mean, capture that video. Don't rely on, like, for example, if you're going to be on TV, find a way to capture that raw video. Don't rely on them to put it up, upload it. Don't go in and they'll tell you, oh yeah, we'll get a copy for you. They won't. They say that. I cannot tell you how many times they say, oh yeah, we'll get a copy for you. And then they mess it up or something like that, or they don't get it. So you cannot this is a big opportunity for you. So find a way to capture that video, get it on your own channels, get it on your own website, slice and dice it, repurpose it in a gazillion different ways, because that is going to make sure that you get good value out of that time that you've invested.
And when I've talked on stages, like if no one's recording it, or even if someone is recording it, I often try to have at least my own little like phone on a tripod or something, just in case. Back when speaking on live stages was a thing. I'll be doing that again in August, which is nice, but it's been a while.
Hey!
But that's key. You gotta have the stuff. Another question. Dave wants to know the most creative way you've seen an individual or small business get some good press attention. Sometimes you got to be eye-catching.
Oof, boy, an example, huh? Listen, I don't want anyone to feel like you have to be overly clever. If I'm being quite frank with you, I don't think it requires a whole lot, but you absolutely need to have a hook that people care about. It's not enough that you released a new book. That's not newsworthy. It's not enough that you released version 1.43x of your new SaaS platform. Guess what? I'm sorry, but nobody cares. It's not newsworthy. So when we talk about a hook, David Meerman Scott coined the term newsjacking a long time ago. I've done some really good videos on my YouTube channel about like how to newsjack. But essentially all we're doing is you have to have a hook that's relevant. So, if you're paying attention to what audiences are already talking about, you have to use that to insert yourself into the conversation and also have a unique point of view. So let's say, for example, the price of rental cars is astronomically high. Okay, people are talking about that. All right. So that would be an opportunity for you to go in and say, well, I have a way that you can save money. Right. And so, again, it's not enough for you to just say, hey, we're a website and we exist. That's almost never going to get picked up. But if you say, hey, and you send a pitch, say, your audience is talking about this right now. This is a topic that's trending right now. Your audiences want to know, they want ideas on how to deal with this. Or if something's coming up, there's a holiday that's coming up, here's 5 ideas on how you can blah, 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 blah. We just did one I actually thought was pretty clever is that I have a client that does a lot of work with like stem cells, and he's like really big on de-aging. And so we said, what if we did this? So we put together a pitch and we said, it's like kind of the COVID selfie challenge. And so, and I don't know that this has been launched yet, but we came up with it. I thought this was clever. It's like create this idea that people have aged more. And there's obviously, we have science to back that up, right? Because when people are stressed out, they age more. When people are, they're drinking more, which we know that they did in the past year and a half, that ages you, all of this stress and stuff. So he created this thing. It's like the COVID selfie challenge. Go look at pictures of yourself from January 2020 and compare them to June 2021, and chances are you've aged a lot. And
I thought it was just because I turned 40,
Yeah. So that was the hook. And so it's like, you know what? Like that's clickbaity. That's kind of, that's a clickbaity kind of thing. It's like, and it's something that the audience can do. And so now it's like the audience can go back and kind of compare how much you aged in the past year and a half, and and then use that then to say, okay, here are 5 tips of things you can do. And by the way, I'm an expert because I just wrote a book about de-aging, and he's not really pushing the book, but he's telling stories from the book. Right. Yeah. And he's not saying, on page 34 of my new book, you too can be a winner. You'll find the 5 secrets. No, you just go ahead and tell and give away all your secrets.
Yes.
Right.
Yes,
because the more value you bring, the more people will trust you. And if they trust you a lot, they'll come find you.
I love that. Lead with trust. No, like, trust. Everyone knows that I bang that gong all the time. I'm not sure why I can't bring this comment in directly, but it's from a live viewer on Twitter, GHLF.org, so Global Healthy Living Foundation. They said, we just launched a podcast, Talking Head Pain, about migraine and headache. What are some tips to get organic listens and or earned media, since it's very niche? It's a very niche program. It's specifically for the migraine community.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to leverage existing audiences, right? And so if somebody else already has built an audience, and if you draw the Venn diagram and you're like, yeah, we want those audience members to come start listening to us, the best thing you can do is, collaborations absolutely work. And so go find the 10 other podcasts that are similar to yours, invite the host to be a guest on your show, promote the heck out of their thing. And you're probably you might be scared to do that. Just know that competition honestly is for losers. You don't need to worry about competition because every audience, nobody is exactly the same, right? So some people are going to resonate with you. Others will resonate with this other show. But because that you are rising above as kind of this tastemaker for the whole industry, people will respect you for that. And they now see you as being an indispensable source, and you truly are advocating for them. So what I would do, honestly, for your first 20 episodes is I would find 20 people, 20 shows, 20 YouTubers, find, moderators of large Facebook groups and communities, invite them. And that's, that should be the game plan for like the first 20 to 50 episodes is find people with big audiences and celebrate the heck out of them. Make them look so good that of course they are going to promote that episode to every audience. Now, if you'll do that, that will get you a base audience because people are going to resonate with you. They're going to be promoting it to their communities. And what'll end up happening is that'll just start the process. What'll happen is other influencers will come and they'll find you because you're like, hey, you interviewed so-and-so. I would love to be featured. Say, great. If you're willing to share this with your audience, we'd love to have you. Right. So that's honestly, I've done full day podcasting events about how to grow audience. I don't know of a better strategy. You could pay a bunch of money, but I'm not a big fan of that. Like you could even invite journalists to be a guest on there. If a journalist has covered this subject before, listen, people love, being recognized for their success, their wisdom, their benevolence, whatever it is, their experience, their story. And so go ahead and leverage that. So we're leading with generosity. When you lead with generosity, people will reciprocate. If you truly do a solid for someone that has influence, they will reciprocate. You don't have to demand it. Don't demand it. Yeah. You could float that, right? Make it ridiculously easy for them to promote. So in other words, create all of the assets for them, repurpose it yourself and tag them so that they can share it with their audiences. That's how you do it. And growth is inevitable if you have a great platform and people feel like you've got some great passion. You talk about the things that they care about.
Love it. Perfection. Well, thank you so much, Josh. This half hour has just flown right by. Tell everyone where they can and should find you.
Sure. Listen, you just go to myinfluence.com. You can even, or you can Google my name and you'll find me. Listen, on my website, I don't do opt-ins. I just give it away for free. I give away, I've got high value videos. I teach what other people charge thousands of dollars for. Generally, you don't have to spend a lot of money on PR at the beginning. I think there's a lot of stuff that you can do yourself. Also, I'll just let you know that if you are a consultant and you are doing 6 figures or more in business, I would love to feature you on my podcast. It's called The Thoughtful Entrepreneur. When you go to upmyinfluence.com, you'll see, hey, we're booking guests right now. If you've got some success in business, even if you're like a service provider or somehow B2B, and particularly if you have a higher value offer, I would love to talk about your success and celebrate you. We have an audience of over 120,000 on social media. I would be thrilled to promote you and your business to my audience.
I love it so much. Thank you so much, Josh. Up My Influence. I'm going to put that link in the comments right when we get off. Thanks so much for being here. You are always awesome and generous. And again,
thank you, Christine. I appreciate you.
Yay! And again, I am here every single Friday. I'm going to be here next Friday as well, of course. And on Tuesdays, I'm on Twitter with my chat about brand. So Tuesday's chat, oh, whoops, wrong order. Tuesday's chat is going to be all about the dark side of personal branding. Think like the cult of personality. Sometimes people get leverage that they use in irresponsible ways. Sometimes people become a little bit more of a brand than a person. We're going to talk about all of that, kind of the dark side of personal branding. And then on Friday's guest is Rachel K. Albers, who has been making a huge content push about really taking a more critical look at some of the high-level influencers and really understanding what we are giving them and what they are giving us in terms of, some of the shady stuff about personal branding. Next week's show, get the popcorn for that one. Thanks so much for being here. Bye!